Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Zishan Rizvi, Leadership Wala from Rehan AI Teacher Training Institute, Batch 21. Today, I have a talk with Maya about the power of positive thinking, how to reframe your mindset. Hi, Maya.
Nice to hear from you again, Zishan. Reframing your mindset sounds good topic.
Yeah,
What's on your mind about it?
exactly. So,
So, when you think about positive thinking or reframing, what's your current take on it all?
I have a couple of questions first, then we'll discuss later on. So, my first question, Maya, would be, what does positive thinking truly mean to you in your daily life?
For me, positive thinking isn't about ignoring what's difficult or just slapping a happy face on everything, more like noticing the good alongside the hard stuff. Like, yeah, traffic sucks, but
Mm,
at least I'm listening to a good podcast,
yeah,
or work's overwhelming, but I get to collaborate with pretty interesting people. It's
ex-
not about denying reality, just balancing it out.
Positive thinking
What about you? What's your gut?
can
Go
positive
ahead.
thinking really change outcomes or just how we feel about them?
It's a good question. I think it's both, but probably more of the second part first. Positive thinking doesn't necessarily change objective reality. Your car can still get towed, your boss can still be demanding, but changing how you view those things, that's
Um,
where you start to have some control over your stress levels, your creativity, your willingness to keep going. Does that make sense?
yes, sure. And what one negative thought pattern you have successfully reframed?
Oh, it's interesting you asked that. I've noticed, well, people tell me like a pattern that comes up a lot is around perfectionism. This, I think the story goes that aiming for a 100% is exhausting and sets you up for disappointment. Reframing it as aiming for improvement instead keeps the momentum going, that takes the pressure off, you know? Like, don't shoot for perfect, shoot for better than yesterday.
Right. And how do you stay positive during challenging or uncertain times?
I've heard from others that focusing on what you can control makes all the difference. There's almost always some small thing that's within your power, even if it's just your attitude toward it. Then finding some tiny gratitude, like thankful for your health or for your coffee, even if everything else feels off.
Wow. And do you believe mindset is more powerful than circumstances? Why or why not?
That's a big one. I think they're intertwined, but mindset definitely shapes how you navigate those circumstances. Like, if your car breaks down, you can either spiral into my whole day is ruined or think, okay, annoying, but what can I figure out now? Same circumstance, wildly different experiences. So, mindset isn't magic. Your car's still broke down, but it determines whether you're stuck miserable or finding solutions.
All right. And what role does self talk play in shaping your mindset?
Zisha, we're almost out of time on this call, about a minute left. I
Mhm.
recommend we wrap up here, but you can always call back if you want to keep
Uh,
digging into this.
yeah, you can answer this question.
See you next time, Zishan.
Mm.
Oh, right. Sorry, quick brain dump before we wrap. Self talk is huge. You can easily steer your thoughts without even realizing it. If you're constantly thinking, I can't do this, or this always happens to me, that stuff becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. Catch yourself thinking that garbage and find one thing you can. Hi,
Yes,
what's up?
continue, Maya. Yeah. So I can give you another question. How can we turn failure into opportunities through positive thinking?
I think the trick with failure is realizing it's not about avoiding it, that's impossible, but about how you frame it. Like most people see failure as, I messed up, I'm not good enough. But if you reframe it to, okay, this didn't work, what can I learn from this? It's suddenly way less crushing, right? A chance to get smarter and sharper next time. It's that mindset flip that separates getting stuck from moving forward. What usually stops people from reframing it that way?
And what are some practical ways to reframe a negative situation instantly?
Um, there's this one thing I've heard people swear by that's surprisingly simple, the three positives rule. Something goes sideways, immediately think of three good things from it, no matter how small. Like, okay, I lost that client, but I learned a ton from the project. I got better at managing expectations, and now I have capacity for something new. Forces your brain to search for the silver lining instead of just spiraling. Works in real time, apparently. What does that approach feel like to you?
Yeah. And do you think positivity eh, uh, can ever become unrealistic or toxic?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge difference between reframing as an honest skill and toxic positivity, where you're just slapping a smile on everything and pretending bad stuff doesn't exist. That's when positivity actually becomes harmful.
Wow.
Like, if someone's genuinely hurting from a loss or disappointment, telling them to just stay positive feels dismissive and invalidating. Healthy reframing doesn't ignore pain, it accepts it, learns from it, then keeps moving.
And
It's
how
it's
does
gotta be a
uh,
I noticed you started a thought there. You were saying, how does
yeah how does gratitude influence your overall mindset?
that's actually fascinating. Gratitude feels less like a feeling and more like a skill, the more I've heard about it. People talk about how regularly naming what you're grateful for actually rewires your brain to notice more good stuff. It's almost like training your attention. The more you look for things to appreciate, the less room there is for negativity to take over. Do
And
you ever catch yourself focusing on what's missing instead of what you have?
yeah, and what daily
I
habits?
wonder if gratitude help you stay present.
Yeah,
You mentioned that yesterday. When you're actually focused on what's going well right now, it kind of pulls you out of that rumination spiral that happens when your mind wanders everywhere else.
all right. And what daily habits help you maintain a positive outlook?
That's a good question. What about you? What routines or habits keep you pretty steady?
Okay, and how can surrounding yourself with the right people impact your thinking?
That's huge. I've heard this compared to being in an emotional ecosystem. You soak up patterns from who you spend your time with, surround yourself with negativity or cynicism, and that's what you'll start to absorb. Positive, grounded people, their way of seeing things becomes your way of seeing things.
And
Your brain starts to default to that outlook without you even realizing it. It's like choosing to hang out in sunshine instead of a dark room. It's almost unconscious how much it impacts you.
can positive thinking improve mental and physical health? How?
Hey, Zishan, we're actually at the end of our time for this call. It's been 5 minutes.
Hmm.
You can totally call back if you want to keep talking, but I wanted to give you a heads up before the call cuts out.
Yeah, yeah.
As for that question, I was saying how positive thinking definitely impacts health. Cortisol levels go down, immune function gets a boost, even stuff like blood pressure regulation improves when you're regularly managing your mindset that way.
Ah,
Hey there,
yeah,
what's up?
yeah, yeah. So then, what's the difference between ignoring problem and reframing them positively?
That's a really smart question. It's easy to confuse the two. Ignoring a problem is like sweeping it under the rug. It's avoiding it altogether, hoping it disappears. Reframing, though, that's actually looking at something hard and then saying, okay, this sucks, but what's actually useful in this? What can I learn from it? It feels different because it's taking something real and turning it into information instead of pretending it's not there. And what usually makes that second step hard for people?
Okay, yeah, the
Got it.
yeah.
And what's on your mind today?
Well,
I
I
noticed
will
you paused there.
still few more questions. How do you train your mind to focus on solutions instead of problems?
Hmm. Good question. What I've heard is that it's less about trying to force yourself into positivity and more about where you place your attention. Most people naturally fall into this reactive pattern where they're fixated on what's wrong, so you got to actively shift that focus. A lot of it, from what I gather, is catching yourself in the act, noticing when you're spiraling and deliberately redirecting, almost like mental pattern interrupts. Do
And
you ever find you're already several minutes deep into a problem rant
mm,
bronze before you even realize what's happening?
all right. And what advice would you give someone struggling with negative thinking?
Okay, so I've heard this from a lot of people who've worked on this stuff. The most practical feel you thing seems to be recognizing your thought patterns. Like most of us have that one go to negative thought we always fall into. Once you catch yourself in that pattern, instead of fighting it, you kind of just notice it without judging. Then you literally ask yourself, is this helpful? If it's not,
Mm.
and usually it's not, you try a different perspective.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but people tell me the noticing part is the hardest. What pattern would you guess you tend to fall into when things get rough?
It's a mix of everything, but because I'm still learning, so I don't behave like you, like professionals. So I have one more question. Maybe that helped me a lot. How do affirmation and visualization impact mindset transformation?
Yeah, that's a good follow up. Mm, affirmations and visualization get a bit of a mixed rap because people can lean into toxic positivity there. But what the science actually suggests is that they work best not as delusional pep talks, but as mental practice. It's like athletes visualizing routines. They're building new neural pathways without needing perfection right now. But
Mm.
affirmations only work if they actually feel possible to believe at some level. Otherwise, they just feel performative and empty. What feels real to you about them versus what feels like a stretch?
Can positive thinking influence career success? Share your thoughts.
So one of those things that gets oversimplified. Most people think it's about sitting around saying, I'm going to succeed all day. That's not what actually moves the needle. But there's actually pretty strong evidence that if you see your career path as more of a development zone than a constant test you have to pass, you perform better. If you can be more open to learning from feedback or reframing failures as just data, it makes actual career impact pretty big. Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. And how do you bounce back mentally after a setback or failure?
Actually, we're reaching the end of our time here, about a minute left. If you want to keep chatting, you can always call back later. But yeah, I was saying about bouncing back. What usually happens is people focus way more on the failure itself than on whether it actually threatens them as human beings. If you treat a setback as just information instead of a reflection of your whole character, it's a lot easier to keep going. Hey there. What's
Yeah,
up?
yeah, that's fine. So, what role does mindfulness play in reframing your thoughts?
That's a really interesting connection. Mindfulness seems to be the bedrock for everything else. You can't reframe a thought until you actually notice it in the first place. I've heard that mindfulness creates that space where you're less swept away by your reactions and more just observing them. Is that something you've experienced so far in your practice?
Yeah, I have last question to you, Maya. What's one small change you can make today to think more positively?
Hmm. From what I've picked up, people talk about gratitude as a really quick win, not in some cheesy write a gratitude journal way, but literally just pausing 3 times today to notice something you don't usually think about, the way sunlight hits a wall, the taste of your coffee, whatever. Apparently, it's about retraining that attention muscle to see small gifts, even when everything feels big and overwhelming. Does that sound like something you could try?
Yeah, thank you very much, Maya.
Cool.
You have been very helpful, and you really gave us very positive and informative answers. And this is the um, end of the day for me. So thank you very much once again. I'll touch base with you hopefully tomorrow or some other time. Thank you very much once again. Have a good night. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Good luck with that gratitude practice. Talk to you soon, Zishan.
Bye bye.